Good morning, everybody. At this very, very early hour still, at least for me it is. For me it is. Good morning. My name is Jeroen Junte. I will be your moderator of the event this morning. And also welcome at the third day of We Make the City. Of a week of more than 200 events and programs and all different events in the city. Probably you're all familiar with that. It's, I think, one of the most innovative weeks during the year. For this program, We Make the City here at Pakhuis, Zwijger, teamed up with DDMP, Distributed Design Market Platform, DDMP. Took me a little while to chew on it because at first I missed the digital in the distributed design market platform. But then I thought, digital, duh. Of course, it's digital. It was old thinking because everything is about working digital with this platform. DDMP is funded by the European Community, the Creative Council. And I think it's in 12 countries, a collaboration of different institutions who all work with new digital manufacturing and fabrication. And I think, if I look at the audience, I think everybody's quite familiar with 3D printing and all the advantages and the fourth industrial revolution that it will bring forth, and that we will not ship any products from China back to Europe again, and that we all exchange knowledge freely. And in this way, it will also contribute to new and better and cleaner and more efficient cities. I think we're all familiar with that, right? Well, and if you're not quite familiar with it, I think after this 1.5 hour, you will be mastering the whole subject of why the digital and distributed design is so important for new cities in the future, now, but especially in the future. The program this morning is called Emerging Talents, and it is, of course, the greater chunk of it. In the second part of the morning, we will have 3 emerging talents who will bring forth, and you already see this beautiful table here. It's like we used to have this quiz show on the Dutch television, and then the participants, if they want something, they could choose something from a table. And it's kind of the vibe I have here. That maybe it's for sale afterwards. I'm looking at the participants, but anyway, here you can see the products that are being made by using all different sorts of digital production. There's even one of the speakers who has a product that's not even possible to put it on the table anymore. It will only be on screen. So we have these 3 amazing talents in the second part. Amber J. Sloten, just the other week she was awarded with a Dutch Design Award in the category Young Talent. So I think that says enough about the emerging. Yes, and a round of applause is welcome for Amber J. Yes. Another speaker is Lea Pauw. She is still a student at the Amphi, which is one of the forestanding fashion schools in the Netherlands. And she will tell about the beautiful bag you see there. Also, in the second part, Cecilia Raspanti. She is head of the Textile Lab, which is part of De Waag. And if you're familiar with, I think, digital production and distributed design, you all know De Waag because they're one of the leading think tanks and one of the leading institutions worldwide on this subject. And that's the second part, that's the emerging talents. But just to touch ground, to touch base, first we've invited 2 speakers, and they will they're a little bit more experienced, and they will tell more about their experience with, amongst many other digital fabrication, 3D printing and other techniques. Becky Bannenberg, she's a goldsmith. At least she was a goldsmith. I don't know, she works with 3D, exclusively with 3D printing and other digital fabrication now. So I don't know, but I will ask you later on whether the term goldsmith still applies. But she's been working with 3D printing for more than 10 years. And first up is Joris van Tubbergen. People in the Netherlands, they know him as Rode Joris, Red Joris, and does that have something to do with your political stance? No, it is the hair. Also not. So it's quite kind of a secret why it's called the Roy Joris. But everybody knows him. He's one of the groundbreaking people in the Netherlands concerning 3D printing. He's now head of Protospace, which is a fab lab in Utrecht, and one of the oldest fab labs in the Netherlands as well. He was stood at the ground of Ultimaker, which is, I think, one of the most famous 3D do-it-yourself 3D printers in the Netherlands and far abroad. He has been active in the open design, as we also might call it, for the last decade, and he will give a short introduction of his experiences. May I please have a very warm welcome for Joris van Tubbergen.
It's not in front of this. Is it working? Okay, perfect, because I don't hear it, so that's better if you don't hear it. So, the green one, I think. Eh? Yeah, that's me. Hello, welcome everybody. As said, my name is Joris van Tubbergen. I'm trained as a product design engineer in Delft, and the last 10 years, got in touch with digital fabrication, and the part with Ultimaker, I can sort of say that Ultimaker was born at Protospace. We started with the master classes making 3D printers, and first that was RepRap. And then we had so much experience, we thought, okay, let's do another master class, and there came out the Ultimaker. And then as a product designer, I thought, okay, this is a really nice machine, you can do way more with it, but 3D printing takes a long time. And I think since the start, I really like to make things that are not possible. And that's a sort of the red line in my story. And I picked out 3 things, and I have many more examples, but then just as a short introduction for the morning. This is very long time ago. This is maybe the first 3D print shop in the world. This was at the Magna Plaza. There was some whole month they asked creative people to fill in the empty shopping spaces. I think 40% of the shopping mall just behind Times Square was empty. And I think a month before I built my own Ultimaker, because before I built them in the lab. And the third thing I thought, yeah, but 3D printing is nice, but as a consumer you don't want to wait so long and you want to have like influence on it. So I designed all kinds of, we call them now stupid bracelets. But at that time, it was the only thing you can sort of free print within a short amount of time. And oh yeah, here it's June 2011, and it's one like from one of the founders of Ultimaker. And I designed a concept around because people don't know what value is, how much value 3D printed. If you see a piece of plastic on the street, it's worth nothing. If you know it's 3D printed, it's worth something. If you see it printing in front of your eyes, it's worth way more. And if you create it yourself, then it's sort of priceless. I think that's with everything. If you build your own website 20 years ago, it looks really nice, but you're very proud on it. And the idea was that I charge them €1 per minute. And if it takes like 8 minutes and 30 seconds, you pay €8.30. So if I improve the process, improve the printers, I can print faster, then the products get cheaper. And I can make more people happy, and I still make €60 an hour because there's not more or less minutes in an hour. So there's benefits for everybody. That was a long time ago. Other project I maybe got sort of worldwide attention. That was, I printed an elephant, and this was quite an interesting project because it has like 3 levels of interest. The client was the World Animal Protection. They wanted to create awareness for that you should not ride an elephant anymore. So it's actually a 3D printed petition. And advertising agency came to me and they said, yeah, we really want to print an elephant at the Schiphol airport. Can you do that? And then I said, well, I first had the trick to flip the Ultimaker around. And I did it like maybe 2 or 3 weeks before, and I printed the face this big, just something. And I said, okay, I can print this, so I think yes. And 3 months later, the whole elephant was printed live at Schiphol Airport. And it's not just the elephant. It's for the World Animal Protection. It was really nice because they gathered more than 40,000 names on their petition. And the names are engraved in the skin of the elephant. And with the advertising agency, they designed a font called the elephant. So it's really like skin lines of the elephants. And also from a technical point of view, I think a lot of people involved in 3D printing, they were like, what? Can you do this with sub-1,000 € 3D printers? And later on, I even heard the story that Stratasys also scratched their back heads when this came out because they were sitting close with a deal with Siemens building giant 3D printers, and they said, oh, is this a closed room? Is it warmed and everything? So that was more the fun thing. But I think in the Netherlands, people were aware that it was a petition. I think the people who didn't speak Dutch, they just thought, it is a nice project. Why did you print an elephant? Because it was not clear. The whole website and the whole campaign was in Dutch, but it was an interesting project for me. And it was also one of the first really big hacks, which made sort of interesting impact by flipping the ultimate. It's a 20-minute hack. I can convert the 3D printer back to a normal 3D printer within 20 minutes, and I can flip it, and then I can print bigger things again. And here you can see also the names engraved in the elephant. This was another project I did. It was also, I think, 2012, so quite a long time ago, because I think 3D printing is not about prototyping. I always had the feeling 3D printing should be production, or you should use it at least for production. And everyone said, yeah, but it's too slow, you cannot do anything with it. There's a 3D pop-up store in New York, and I brought 21 printers for a show for a month. And these 12, these are in a grid, and I could start them with a phone. With the idea, if you design an object for this technique, and it takes maybe half an hour to print, you can produce with this setup 5,000 objects a week. I think 5,000 objects a week is not prototyping, I think that's production. You only have to learn how to design for it. At that time in the Netherlands, everybody was sort of familiar with 3D printing, was a lot in the news, but in the US it was still not so common. So they were like, oh, a 3D printer. And I was like, yeah, but you should see the production possibilities of it. All the big companies at that time, they thought this is just playful toys and everything. But if you see now and you look at Ultimaker, I think they don't sell single machines anymore. I think they sell print farms to bigger companies, because now also the industrial companies, they see the power of having more machines and creating just more the production in that. Last project I want to show is for an artist, Renzo Martens. And Renzo, he has a sort of art school in Congo, and there they create clay sculptures, and he wants to transport their product into the modern Western world, and then transform the clay into solid chocolate. So he asked me, can you print this in chocolate? Now, printing in chocolate is a bit too difficult, but I said I can print the sculptures if you have a 3D file of it. And then you can, from the sculptures, you can make a mold, and with the mold you can create chocolate. And it seems so logic for me, so normal. But if you really think about it, this was like in the middle of nowhere in Congo, where these clay sculptures are created. You cannot really transport the sculpture because the clay cannot hold it, and it costs really a lot of money if you want to transport like 10 sculptures. The other way around, to create the molds in Congo is also quite difficult to bring all the chemicals for the polyurethane and silicone over there, and still it's a lot of volume you have to transport. So they 3D scanned it with one digital camera, just make quite a lot of pictures. And the company here in Amsterdam, they stitched the pictures into 3D. I 3D printed the sculptures, then the molds were made, and then the chocolate was filled in. And I think one of the bigger sculptures is more than 90 kilos of chocolate. So it's really like heavy. And that's also where I think the challenge was printing it, but I think the bigger challenge was actually creating the chocolate, because there's a lot of chocolate artists, and they can do small things, the bonbons and everything. But if you go a little bit bigger, then it's difficult. And I think I have a picture of him, this guy, Jan Willem. He was also some world champion chocolate chip team, something Netherlands. And he stepped out of his small patisserie shop, and he started working at the commercial patisserie thing, and also creating the Christmas high-end things for Albert Heijn and the big supermarkets. So he had the whole equipment to actually do this 90 kilo things, and the knowledge of having the fine art of chocolate thing in there. So I think that's also a really interesting mix in how to digital transport it from Congo to here, which first think, okay, that's sort of expensive, but I think in the end this is one of the most affordable ways to recreate and to create the sculptures here. So that's the story for introduction.
Thank you, Joris. So you went from actually building one of the first 3D printers yourself to printing chocolate. That's sort of your resume in a nutshell.
Yeah, I did actually also print chocolate, but that was just really just the chocolate letters with Sinterklaas. We have here the tradition, and
Yeah.
that was the fun. But then I realized, okay, it really needs some development if you want to really print chocolate sculptures.
Yeah, well,
So
I think it has moved beyond the chocolate these days as well. Which also brings me to Peggy Bannenberg. Yes, please, can I also have a warm welcome applause for Peggy? I'd like to invite you on stage as well, please. Join. And like I said, Peggy was trained as a goldsmith. She now works exclusively with 3D printing. What I will do, I will stand at that side because then I won't be in the screen. I'll give you a mic and please give a short introduction of your work.
Yeah, it's on. Okay. My name Peggy Bannenberg. I'm trained as a traditional goldsmith. Back in another century. And this was a design during my education. I made a watch, and it's intriguing. I just go through these pictures real quick. These are an overview of my former work, which has a lot to do with handmade things, craft, and always was intrigued with unusual materials. So these are made of zinc in combination with enamel, and pieces with eggshell inlay. And this was a transition towards digital fabrication. So this was laser cut aluminum. And from there came an invitation from TNO Eindhoven to become familiar with 3D printing. And from there, I never left 3D printing because it was very intriguing as another technique and with new materials. This is a line-up titanium, nylon, Ultimaker, which I must say, Ultimaker 10 years ago.
It has improved a lot.
It has improved.
Yeah.
It looks a little shitty, but my intention was always to make a design that was really hard to make by hand. So the choice of using 3D printing was obvious. So if you could make it by hand, just pick up your hand tools and make it. And probably you'll be finished much faster. But the 3D printing also introduced other materials. I do like the nylon very much. It's flexible. I've never made bracelets before because they're really complex with enclosures, and in wearing. It's a light material, it's colorful. And this is a bracelet where I combined two identical pieces because the process always has a uniform color, and this was a way to combine the colors and also a way to combine the materials. So one file would go to one printer and the other file would go to another printer. Both had different materials and you could combine the colors or the materials. Yeah, the interlocking parts is interesting of 3D printing. People are still, oh, this comes out of a printer in one piece. And I just go through it fast. So this is
The one you're
obvious, the
wearing.
one I'm wearing.
Yeah.
But this is one I did make on my own printer, because for every material, for every printer, you have to keep the design guidelines in mind. You cannot transform one file without problems from one machine to another machine.
Okay, but if you design something, it's already you have to make before. In the early part of the designing process, you decide already this is going to be nylon, this is going to be gold, this is going to be silver, this is going to be that different material.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind the design guidelines for each material and for each machine.
Yeah.
And so a machine like an Ultimaker has other features, problems, advantages over maybe another machine, other material.
So you were drawn to digital fabrication and 3D printing. First it was also laser cutting. You still do that, or it's only 3D printing?
No.
As long as it's digital.
You should choose the fabrication which is best suitable for your goal.
Yeah.
So 3D printing is not the magic. It can do everything, but it can do a lot.
Yeah.
So if you can be faster with laser cutting and
Okay, so
use
for you,
laser cutting,
it's strictly functional. What draws you to 3D printing? Because you can do more complex things. It's more efficient.
yeah, you can do other things than traditional methods.
You
so
don't
it does have a lot of.
You don't work traditional anymore with your hands.
Yeah, sure. No, yeah, not that often because I'm still intrigued with the 3D printing.
Well, what I can imagine is with goldsmithing, that the crafty aspect is very important. You buy a piece of jewelry and you see the craftsmanship. You see that somebody has been trained and had the education and then probably worked for 10, 15 years before you really master the materials and the instruments and the techniques. That part is a little bit gone in your practice, isn't it?
Yes and no. I think it still goes. It just go through the thing.
Sure,
So
yeah.
I sell my stuff through being on a fair and showing the jewelry to people, because it's important for jewelry that you can touch it. The other part is that it can be sold digitally, but you cannot touch it. This is a thing that the digital fabrication can lead to disillusions, because if you design on a screen, the end result will be different because of gravity or another problem is on a screen you can enlarge your design, so the real size is kind of hard to grasp when you're designing. So if you're doing details, they're lost. Now you have to know your design guidelines, otherwise things will break.
Yeah.
Or the mail will break your things.
Yeah.
These are some projects I did for others. This is
the late mayor.
The late mayor.
Yeah. We're the minister of culture.
This was a project, a bigger project. Yeah, coming back to what you asked before.
Yeah,
About
craftsmanship, the
the
craftsmanship.
fingerprints in your design.
Exactly, the fingerprints.
Yeah, I get these questions quite a lot. So where is the fingerprint?
So you probably got a good answer then.
Yeah, but to design in a good way, you have to know your craft, and it doesn't matter if craft involves hammers and thumbs.
Pliers and all sorts of
Craft
stuff.
is the knowledge of what you're doing.
So the craft is also in the digital designing process.
You have to know, you have to
Mastering the
understand your
software.
process. So what are you working with, and the pros and cons of your tools.
I see you eager
Yeah,
to
yeah,
jump in.
you're
Please
right.
do,
I
Joris.
think I want to add on that. We know now how to judge craftsmanship because everybody knows the techniques of sewing, filing, sanding, and everything. And I think we need some education, we as consumers,
Exactly.
in recognizing the craftsmanship in the digital part already, because it's not different. It just doesn't make noise and it doesn't smell. But
Yeah.
it's the same sort of craftsmanship on the screen already apart. And then again, I think you can still do a lot of craftsmanship in the post-processing and everything and use it as a part. But also recognizing the craft in already a digital file, I think it's
It's a different craft.
it's a different craft.
Yeah. From analog
And it's
craft
difficult to know how much work it is unless you do it yourself once.
Yeah.
And everybody tried to cut the tree once,
Yeah.
or to cut something, so they know it's difficult to make a really nice straight cut and to make it really nice and perfect. So you know, this is really nice. It's a straight line.
Yeah. And also the aesthetics. It's more on the aesthetics and how you master the software to make it exactly as you want. What I kind of like is the goldsmithing used to be. It was sort of you were sort of an alchemist. From different metals, you made a new metal, and then you made it into something beautiful. And actually, this whole 3D printing process also sometimes has the fling of being sort of an alchemy. You work on a computer, and ta-ta, all of a sudden you make something out of nothing, which is quite a way of alchemy as well. What I was thinking, you both were in the 3D printing back in the day, so to say. And we can see from your development as well that it's gone from the plastics, so to say, or the bioplastics into all different. I saw wood, I saw glass, I saw all different materials as metal and everything. So you can see here the whole development. I think but it's a question, Joris. Back in the day, you were working at the Protospace and you were building your own 3D printers. That the real innovation has shifted from, say, the fab labs and the do-it-yourself kind of bottom-up spaces to the high-end industry, or am I mistaken here?
Well, I think the first of all, the back in the days, we called it 10 years ago, but 3D printing is back in the days, so almost 40 years ago, I think. So,
Yeah, but
so back in the early days, maybe, back in the late days. And at that time when we started, people were building a 3D printer because they wanted to build a robot.
Yeah.
And it was not about printing things, it was just they want to build a machine that can create things, that's the fun part of it. And then it was there, and then they thought, okay, what should we make?
Yeah.
I have no idea. And then they printed gears because then they could make more robots with the gears and everything. So there were only a few designers, I think, at that time who actually, or product designers who want to make things with that. And if you look at the industry part, 3D printing in plastic is actually a bit slow in innovation. It's maybe the last year there are some more innovative materials coming up for these plastic printers, so-called. But if you look at metal printing, it's like the innovation is going in a steep line and it still goes up. So for industry kind of view, the 3D printing and digital world is really nice, but that's not my consumer view of products.
No.
I really think it's really nice to use digital techniques to get it on a consumer level, because industries, they have already for 40 years enough money to 3D print parts.
Yeah, and they do that as well.
Yeah.
Well, what I mean is that there seems to be in 2012, we all remember that the Economist had the proclaimed the fourth industrial revolution. We're now, say, 7-8 years later. It still is not hit really hard, the fourth industrial revolution. If you look at, I think, the whole 3D printing industry in the Netherlands, I think it's not even the weekly turnover of the Albert Heijn, which is like the Walmart of the Netherlands. So it seems that it has not really taken off, and there seems to be a growing gap between, say, the fab labs, the proto-spaces, the bottom-up industry with 3D printing, and really advanced high-end industrial 3D printing.
What I see in the lab, we help a lot of people with innovating things, and in the first time we help them with making the drawing and printing a part for their prototype or for their production or whatever. And then they realize how easy it is actually to use these kind of machines, and some of them, they buy a 200 euros machine and they start printing their parts in their own department, and then they buy 5 of these machines and they start printing, and that's on the small scale. But you also see it on the bigger industries. I think VW and Ultimaker has a nice showcase that 3D print is coming more and more on the production floor to make helper parts and that kind of things. It's really difficult to get it on a level where a 3D print part looks nice and is functional.
Yeah.
And so they start first making things that are non-visible and non-functional because you don't see them, and they're not really necessary, so that's not the problem. And then you can start off making things which are functional but not visible.
Yeah.
So you don't need like the surface touch you expect as a consumer or engineer. And then the part comes that it maybe is non-functional but visible. So you can make it really nice and shiny but not engineering style.
Yeah.
And then the step is functional and visible. We're not in that stage yet, or at least for a lot of materials not.
No.
And maybe in the industry it is with metal printing, but yeah, if you look at aerospace and
different kind of
medical
budgets,
departments, medical application, there is just way more money than on the consumer level.
So it is. For argument's sake, if you would win the lottery, you would have like 3 or 4 million euros, and you could only spend it on the proto space. You could develop, in theory, you could develop one of those machines as well, just with the knowledge you have and the open source community you have. Theoretically.
No.
For argument's sake,
I don't know.
early morning.
I think that the interesting approach is that's also back to the master classes maybe. That we were building 10 machines with 10 people, and everybody has their own education, and one is very good in engineering and software engineering, other one was good in mechanical engineering.
You're talking about the wraps, the 3D printer that can reproduce itself. Yeah.
And then you see that everybody try to solve the problems in the profession they are good at. So me personally, I cannot try to make a machine because I'm not a mechanical engineer to fix the machine. I try to fix it to change the design in a way that it looks good, and I can change it. So I firstly try to change the design to make it look good instead of changing the machine to make it look good. And sometimes there's a really nice match between an engineer and a designer, and then they said the first objects I made were with a lot of straight lines. Yeah. Because I saw the first printers, they were very nice in the straight lines, but as long as you do a curvy surface, you get all kind of blobs.
Yeah, we saw that in one of your early pieces of jewelry.
So it was not the low res as a design feature, it was a low res as a product feature, so it looks better. And then engineers saw it, hey, this is a nice design. I shared it, and they said, yeah, but I still see the blobs on the corners. And they said, why is that? And they tried, and one engineer, they made an extra cable to the printer and to measure all the bits and bytes and see if there was a problem. The other one was making a visualizer to see the code, what's sending to the printer. That was new at that time. In 2 weeks, I think 10 people were working on it and scratching their head, why is that? Why is that? And in the end, they found, there is some sort of buffer underrun, and it micropauses at that spot. And there you get the blobs.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
2 weeks later, I could print the whole thing as a smooth thing. So then my whole faceted thing was not as product feature. It became sort of a design feature because it was solved by the mechanical part. So
And that's the power of working open source.
I think that's
Yeah,
a great power, because if I have to find that buffer underrun something myself,
No, no.
I
No, but that's still there's still a lot of innovation coming from places like the Fab Labs and the Protospace. That's because of the open source, the knowledge of the masses.
yeah, it's getting less and less, because if you now buy a €200 printer, they print so good out of the box.
Yeah, yeah,
So now it's more the power of the creator.
exactly. The designer is
the
back in the
printer is
in the driver's
But there's
seat.
still a lot of things you cannot print, and
No.
that's more the design rules you need, and it's not part of. I think every printer under €5,000 can create the same quality.
Okay.
It's
Last question for you, Peggy. I couldn't help noticing, seeing Shapeways, that you order your stuff with Shapeways. Well, there's the whole thing about distributed design, that you don't have to ship stuff from all around the world. So you have what you do basically is you send your file to New York or New Jersey, I think it is, where the big Shapeways
It
factory.
stays in Eindhoven.
So there's still one in Eindhoven, but I think there's the main factory now is in I think you can call it a factory, is in New Jersey. But what you still see is that sometimes you send your file to New York, it's printed there, and it's shipped back. How can that be changed for you, for example?
What I order here is printed in Eindhoven.
Okay.
So it's not shipped back.
Okay.
But the idea is that what I told, like jewelry, you have to fit and touch and try, but not everybody decides to buy something instantly. So you could always, the website is more like a reminder of what people touched. I also go to fairs abroad. So and so if somebody saw and touched or tried a piece, they can go to the website and order it. So I don't have to ship it later to them.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So it kind of it works more 2 ways. What I do like making the jewelry 3D printed is as a traditional goldsmith. If I made, say, like a ring and I show it to you and you say, yeah, nice, I want one
I
too,
want it, yeah.
but it's not your size. I have to go all the way back to the beginning and make one from scratch again.
Yeah, yeah.
So it always felt like going 1 step forward and 3 steps
yeah.
backward, because the most fun part of making things is making new things and not making things all
Repeating
over
yourself,
again.
Yeah,
So a big advantage of making rings digitally is I make it once and then I scale it to the right sizes.
You measure the finger and then
I just make the regular sizes, and there are always people with fingers like 10-year-olds or arms like huge.
So it really improved your creativity.
Yes.
3D printing.
Yeah, and the fun of making things. So not making going back. So I have to make an order. I have to make.
Okay.
You can better spend your time in thinking or making
the
new
design process.
things.
Yeah, what you're actually educated for.
And also the designing is like this craft and digital part. I really have benefit of the craft part. Always advise teachers or students, don't forget about the craft part. Learn how to make things by hand, because then you know how things work.
Yeah. You could get to understand the material and the physics of it.
So I do see a lot of jewelry making from students, digital students, and you can see it. It's different than from the craft part. And designing it digitally is nothing more than combining volumes digital instead of physical.
Yeah, that is the difference. You agree?
Yeah. I think the craft part is also really nice in all those sub €5,000 printers, because you can do way more it's not a print. It's a tool.
Yeah, yeah. Like a hammer or a
It's
saw.
like a hammer or a
It's-
screwdriver, and
But then with the
if,
plug.
if you think it's a machine, then the screwdriver can only put in the screw, but you can do way more things with a screwdriver as well.
Yeah.
And
but
that's
if-
how
if
I
you
see
want
the
to-
3D printer, at least the one which are. You can do it probably the same with the €100,000 machines,
Yeah.
but it's more expensive in your wallet, I think. So it's,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's a bit more difficult.
And you have more room to experiment with the cheaper ones
And
because
it's,
you
it's
can
also more
hack
difficult
them
because less people own those kind of machines, so it's difficult to get the knowledge what's going in there, and most of the time the companies don't want to share what's in there, so it's really difficult to see those machines as a tool instead of.
Yeah, yeah. I was just checking the time.
There's so much to tell.
There's so much to tell. I think now we have a very strong basis of the early days, the not so the pretty early days, and where it came from, the 3D printing, and where we are at the moment, and what the possibilities are. Thank you, Joris, and thank you, Peggy. Yes, thank you, applause. And now we move over to the emerging talents part. First up is Lea Pauw. She's still a student at the Amphi here in Amsterdam, and she created these bags, which are very crafty and analog, but at the same time she uses a lot of digital techniques. Lea, can I invite you to the stage? Yes.
Hi, so I'm Lea. I'm a student from Amphi, a fashion design student. And last half year, I did a minor hypercraft, and that's all about designing digital in Clo and in Lectra. And I made a collection named Carry On together with a management student from Amphi. So that's really interesting combination because I was doing the designs and she was doing the management part. So as fashion students, we found out that a lot of stuff we made, a lot of artwork, was ending up on the messy attic, and we never looked at it again, or just sometimes to show to your family or something like that. But I think everyone can recognize something about that, that a lot of goods are just laying on your attic and you're never using it again. So that was something we wanted to do about. So we wanted to bring those goods back to life. And then we were thinking about what kind of goods are laying on your attic, and we came to paintings, artworks. And we saw that in Amsterdam you see them sometimes on the street because you can just throw your stuff on the street and then it will be picked up, and also paintings for laying on the street. So we used paintings from bigger artists. So one of the artists we worked together with was Ans Marcus. Maybe someone of you knows her. And she gave us some of her paintings that were just laying on our attic, and she said, yeah, I'm not really proud about it, but I don't want to throw it away because there's a lot of work in it. So she said, just try to work with it. And that's what we did. But we also used some paintings from beginners, just art made by regular, normal people. And then we decided to make bags out of it because clothes was a bit difficult. You need to wear it, it gets dirty, you need to wash it. So we decided to make a collection out of bags. And of course, all of the stuff on your messy attic has a memorial value. Otherwise, you wouldn't keep it. Otherwise, you would just throw it away. And that's where the digital program became really interesting for us. Because once you make a cut in real life, you can't go back. Of course, it's really weird to cut in a painting, because normally you don't do that. It's a really valuable thing, artwork. So that's why the digital program really was helpful for us, because we could experiment as much as we would like. You can just Ctrl Z and the cut is undone. So that's what we did. We just played with the paintings so that we could decide, okay, this is how we wanted it, and then we made the cut. We did have a lot of challenging parts because it's an artwork, it's painting, it's really stiff material. So we needed a lot of experiments and try out what's the best thickness, the best stiffness. So that was a bit difficult. What we wanted to do with this project is also combining the digital world and handcrafted world. Because of course, people nowadays storage a lot of goods online, in the cloud. Maybe in about 100 years, we don't even have a messy attic anymore because you storage all your goods online. We don't have photo books anymore maybe because you have it all on your phone. And that's what we found interesting about it. So actually we were combining the digital world with the handcrafted world. And in that way, we also hoped to have a lot of generation clash. Maybe you can put a painting of your grandma that was laying on the messy attic in a design, and then you can wear it on the street or in a festival in a fanny pack. So that's what we did. We made a collection out of 7 bags, from small to really big, as you can see. So this is the smallest bag we made, like a really small one. And the biggest one is the backpack. And in the end, the paintings we got from artists, we gave back to the artist. And they really liked it because now they could really use their artworks and it was not a useless object anymore. So that was, for example, this bag. And what also was really nice is that because we made it digital, we could also think about what would it be like if we made another bag collection next year, maybe from stuffed animals or from lampshades. So we just placed the lampshades in the designs or the stuffed animals, and we could see like, oh, maybe that would work for another possible collection. And I think now I want to show a movie with about the process. And then I want to say, don't give up on your goods, keep carry on.
Thank you, Leah. Leah will be back on stage afterwards, after the 3 pitches of the young designers. I think it was a very good example of what Joris called using the digital techniques just as an instrument, just as a tool. I think that's very clearly what you did. Next up, Cecilia Raspanti. She's from the Textile Lab of the Waag. And basically what they do at the Textile Lab is innovating on new materials and new techniques. So we're moving from recycling to totally new, innovative materials. Cecilia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Bear with me, I'm still half asleep. My Italian side is still sleeping. Not seriously. So at Textile Lab Amsterdam, we're based at Waag Society. It's a creative research institute that combines art, science, and technology in many different ways. In our lab, what we're actually focusing on is textiles, materials, and fashion, and how actually these can be combined with new technologies coming from biology, so biotech, microbiology, or digital fabrication techniques. Actually, when we were asked to look at this presentation at open source and digital technologies, for us it's funny because it's actually at the core of everything we do. Everything we do is open source. And here you have sort of like a little bit of a peek also of what the lab is and what the students and researchers that come there are working on. As I was saying, we experiment with craftsmanship, heritage, technology. So everything we do is actually also very much what Peggy was saying. Crafts are so important. I'm trained as a fashion and textile designer, specialization in knitwear, and that's all crafts. You can't design if you don't understand your materials, your crafts, and your cuts. And of course, we digitalize all of this. We try to understand what are the new crafts also coming out. And then we work in a fully transparent, open source way, and we actually strive for creating this push and this change, because the way we see the world looks a little bit more like this. We believe always in a process where we research, and we research with peers, with other researchers. We try to start out also question what are the problems today with them. Then we move into a knowledge sharing phase where we involve other people and we say, hey, how are you feeling about this? What are other problems that we are not seeing yet? And also this is often the part where we involve people coming from other fields, especially sciences, and then to move into showcasing part where it's actually much more about involving a broader public to create what we call a new textile ecology. So why do we do this? I believe that as textile and fashion designers, most of us are trained to have our brains to look like a little bit like this. This is the first depiction of a cabinet of curiosities. We are trained to actually only keep all of our ideas in our heads because somebody might steal them. Big mistake. First of all, the moment we are not sharing your ideas, nothing is happening to you. Because you don't talk about it, nothing changes. There is no knowledge evolution in your own process, but also for everybody else. And as much as the textile and fashion industry is an industry that really wants to change and innovate and is striving for this and is trying in many different ways, you're still very much stuck in this ego-fed mentality where actually we keep everything to ourselves, and the moment you find a solution, you should not share this. You should just try to sell it, sell it, sell it. And this is such a big mistake and such a shame, because the moment we actually create networks of innovation where we can share this information, we can build up on each other's knowledge. That means that somebody else can pick up on it and do something else with it and take it a step further. So I will be, oh, it looks funky. I will be presenting 3 different examples of different things that we're presenting actually at the moment also around the city. This is the material archive. It's an open source material archive with recipes coming from our heritage, but also mixed with new technologies, where we look at biomaterials, alternative materials to, for example, plastics and active materials. The whole archive is open source, and you can actually see it at the mode exhibition, New Beginnings at the Marineterrein this week. So go and have a peek. There's also work of Amber and many other cool people. So I'll just give you a small peek of what is in there. There's a lot of work there on, but do I need this? Can I do it that? Yeah. There's a lot of work on bioplastics, bioresins, and biosilicons, because we don't believe in designing a product separate from the material. We design a plastic cup with a material that will last hundreds of years. Why are we doing this? How long do you need a plastic cup? 4 hours? 6 hours? It should be made with a material that has a lifespan of like 8 hours, 10 hours, maybe 12, not longer. Why are we still designing with the 2 things completely separate? I find this very interesting. So what we're trying to explore with especially bioplastics, resins, and silicons is actually, can we create alternative versions of this? And most of them are actually heritage techniques, or mixing knowledge coming from cheese making to science with actually plastic. So a material that then can have a lifespan that is much shorter and still be used for exactly what we need it for. Or bacterial dyes. This is a project I will also speak about a little bit later. This is actually about growing resources locally. Why do we need to ship worldwide dyes and produce them? Dyes are one of the most problematic parts of clothing and of textiles. Can we grow them in a lab? Is it exactly the same compounds? And it is. It's the same compounds of our heritage techniques of natural dyeing. But funnily enough, nobody was actually looking in the combination with textiles trying to solve this issue as an ink. but also modular construction. So I like this example because it actually is happening with one of our ex-students. One of the classes actually, they look at how they can create modular construction, and very often this happens out of waste. He started a conversation with Fendi. Actually, Fendi came to him and said, like, we have a lot of leather waste because we produce beautiful bags, but very often we have these small parts that we can't use anymore. Can we actually use your modules and start to experiment and see if we can make small accessories with this and bags? So these modular constructions are also, you can reconfigure them in every possible way, but we also see that finally brands are starting to pick up on this and actually scanning their waste and then laser cutting them into different parts. But also 3D printing, self-shaping materials, and looking at logistics. So can we ship something flat at this point, and that even within almost locally, that we don't have to fill up a whole truck? Or working towards active materials. This is a project that we did together with other two partners in Spain, Nomen and Primlab, where actually we were looking at, can we, instead of waste materials, simulate also airflows around the body fully digitally, and what happens? What does this look like? And what we were trying to do, and what we did, is actually create a composite material with CO2 pure that absorbs CO2, actually attracts the molecules and splits them open, and embed this in 3D printing filament that was then printed on textiles. And what we made was this menswear coat that actively absorbs CO2 and purifies the air around you, which is quite funny because it means that we will be walking around the streets as humans and actually cleaning the air, but also imagine all of those places where production is happening with these materials. It means those become center for absorption of pollution rather than producing CO2. And all of this knowledge is actually displayed in the open source material archive that I was saying. You can have a peek this week. Most of it is at Marineterrein. And there you can really find all of the recipes, all of the information. So it's giving you the ingredients, the tools, and the knowledge to actually see what you can make with these materials. Bioshades is the second example, and this is actually focusing on bacterial dyes. So the focus of this project actually at the beginning was really, can we do this? Can we create pigments coming from bacteria? We knew it was possible. It was in many research papers since the 1990s, but nobody was doing anything with this. And we thought, how is this possible? Found out that it's fully patented, but we thought, okay, what happens if it becomes common knowledge? And why is this conversation not happening between scientists and creatives? So we started documenting all of the research in a way that it creates what we call mutual literacy. That means that we can have conversations between scientists and creatives with them speaking something that is a language that is halfway. Very often when we were documenting our work, scientists said, like, yeah, but what about the protocols? What are you using? I don't understand this. And the moment you start documenting it in a half technical and half creative way, much more visual, both parties can be engaged, and we see much faster evolution of knowledge happening. And in fact, I think now there is about 45 places which have, we say, contaminated with bacterial dyes and knowledge about them. And we also do this by doing worldwide distributed workshops. So this is the work we did last year, 1.5 years ago actually, where we were running a workshop in 17 locations at the same time around the world, hands-on. It means that we were both teaching and different locations were actually
Sorry, Cecilia. Sorry to interrupt you. It's going to be a busy day, and it's already in full swing the day. Yeah, so I do have to interrupt you a little bit. What I wanted to know is all the things that you've talked about here, especially, or except maybe the workshop itself. It's on show at the Marineterrein.
There is only the material archive there.
Only the material archive, which is of course a big part of the textile lab.
Which is one of the parts, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to invite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just show 3?
3. Okay.
1 second. I will skip all of these. Now, the only thing I wanted to show was also Public Academy, because this is the way we actually really share knowledge in a distributed way.
Yeah, which is interesting for the audience. Yeah.
A program we co-funded, which actually, if you're interested in any of the things that you have seen before, This is a program that runs worldwide, where we share all of the knowledge. These are all of the locations that are taking part this year, and you can actually apply both here in Amsterdam or in any other location to take part of this.
And the website is textile dot or hyphen?
Yeah.
Or
My,
it's just
dash.
dash. Okay,
Textile-academy.org.
okay, look it up. Go to the Marine Terrein. Thank you, Cecilia. Thank you so much. I'm really sorry. Yes. Because if we run late now, then for the whole day we'll be running late, and before you know it, you will 3 o'clock at night before you're all in bed. And tomorrow's a new day, so I have to be very strict on that. I do apologize. Last speaker, Amber J. van Sloten. Sorry, Sloten. Yes. For the people who came in later, when I introduced the C1 just recently, a Dutch Design Award as a young talent, which is a very prestigious award. We've seen now, especially sort of a mix of 3D printing and other digital fabrication in combination with recycling or bacterial dyeing and all sorts of different combinations. I think now it's time to go full on digital. With Amber. Amber, can I invite you to the stage? Can I have a warm welcome for Amber?
Thanks, everyone. I think I'll just wait for my presentation. Yeah, awesome. All right, so how do you run a fashion house without ever touching a piece of fabric? That was like my biggest question that I wanted to answer. I started studying fashion design with big dreams of becoming a designer, exploring fashion, making beautiful clothes. And then around 2014, the documentary The True Cost came out. Who of you saw that documentary? Not so many. Just a little bit. Well, it's about the pollution of the fashion industry and the fact that, there is a gigantic pile of waste that is not going away. And as a young fashion designer, I felt like it was very irresponsible for me to add on to that pile. I was like, I cannot continue creating clothes. That is just too impossible for me. That is like not responsible. So how can I find a way as a designer to still express myself without wasting anything but data? Already at school, this started, and I told my teachers, listen, normally the graduation process of fashion design is you graduate with minimum 6 outfits that are physical. You have to do a fashion show. And I said, yeah, so I'm not going to make any outfits. I will make them digital. And I will graduate with 8 digital outfits. And they looked at me like, excuse me? How does this work? And, like, okay, we can try. We can give you some space to explore. And I said, like, you know what? I'm going to see if this works. So there was a big kind of vision on maybe in the future we will wear all one suit that will be super comfortable. And then over that we will wear some kind of layer of holographic expression that you could see with a lens or with glasses. And it would like totally transform the way we would wear clothes because we could express ourselves endlessly. And I graduated with a holographic collection. And people didn't understand until they saw it, which was very interesting. And then after graduation, I came into the market and there was no jobs, no nothing, which was very interesting. And then I met my business partner, Carrie Murphy, who is from the visual effects and film background. So he actually knew how to create things in 3D and make things look extremely realistic. So we decided on starting a fashion house together. And trying to see if we can actually make collections without wasting. Hope this works. I don't think no. Is it the green one? Oh yeah. Yeah, so the Fabricant is a digital fashion house operating at the intersection of fashion and technology. I just want to show you a video. We turn on the music? Or not? Yeah, so none of that is real. Everything you just saw is digital. And yeah, we actually also even put people front row because we're kind of interested in having people watching our show. So we make clothes that are always digital and never physical, because we really want to try and push that boundary of what does it mean? What does it mean to have a digital piece of clothing, and how can we actually wear that? And also, what is a new way of designing these digital clothes? I mean, as a designer, can you even be inspired by an algorithm? So what I use for this collection is, this is an image that is created out of an algorithm that was simulating pictures from Paris Fashion Week and created this new kind of weird pixelation, and the computer doesn't know what it means. But for me, it was super inspiring. So from that, I made like this outfits. So the entire collection is actually thought up by an algorithm, and I just took it to the next step by designing with it and creating these outfits. And it still got that emotional response, because the thing is, what is most important about fashion is the emotion when you look at it, and the identity that you bring forth when you wear it. And we had a lot of fun with making these environments too, with experimenting the different materials. And yeah, we showed this collection last year in June on 3 different places in the same week. So it was in Paris, in Amsterdam, and in Maastricht. And we didn't have to ship anything. We didn't have to take anything. You know, we didn't have to. Everyone can watch it. Also, we posted it on our socials, and there was more than 100,000 views on the collection alone, even though it never existed. So that's the power of digital. So our intriguing 3D fashion narratives exist in the realm of the endless possible. We can use any material that we want because there's no limitations, and it's never gonna be physical. So we can experiment with, maybe you want to be on fire all day. It can be, you know, it's like these materials exist in the digital space. So how our business model works is we are servicing fashion companies at the moment, which means that we create videos with them to help them transform their company into the digital space. So we make sample collections for them digitally so they don't have to waste so many samples. But we also create a new industry for digital identities, which means that basically, what does digital identity mean? Like, how can you wear this garment digitally, and how can you buy that? Which is a very big question we try to answer in our work. So this is some of the work we did with sortie denim. As you can see, this is a circular garment, a circular denim garment. And for this, we recreated these visuals, which look like this. So if you can see all the stitching and everything, it's all fake. Yeah. So we're taking the fashion industry towards a digital existence, which is fundamental to its consumers and to the planet. Because sample collections are still being burned. You really don't know, but it's really true. And people are still destroying their samples, and they don't know what to do with it. It's insane. Also, you keep on buying things, and it ends up in landfill. Still in the Netherlands also, there's I think 11 million kilos still of textile waste ending up in landfill. So, you know, if we all can do that digitally, I think it would be a lot more efficient. And you can create all kinds of environments and things. There's no end to what you can come up with. Yeah, so the Gen Z is becoming the first fully fledged digisapien. Old norms step aside for inclusivity rather than exclusivity. So with this Gen Z, I mean, who here has a kid that is around 13, 14, something? Who of you here knows Fortnite, this game? Yeah? Okay, so it's incredibly popular with Generation Z. It's a game in which you can dress up your character, you can play. It's a battle royale game, they call it. And Fortnite had, in 2018, $1 billion revenue of in-game purchases alone. People buy digital garments for their digital characters, which they wear in these games. And that's their identity. And these kids ask money to their parents. Hey, mom, I really want to buy this banana that I want to be in the game. Can I have like money for that for my birthday? And they don't even want to come shopping with their parents to the shops anymore because it's no longer what they care about. So this is a project we did for IT Hong Kong, which is a Hong Kong-based retailer. I'll just go through it quickly. Yeah, this is one of the visualizations we did for them. It was a 30th anniversary collection. I'll quickly run through it. Yes. Yeah, quick. So this was a digital, it was a pop-up store in which they could only buy clothes from the digital content we made. No physical garments were there. So we are unconstrained from the boundaries of the physical world. This is really important to us. With that, we even designed an outfit for a blockchain. This is the base suit that I created for graduation. And it was worn by Johanna Jaskowska, which is an influencer. She made the face masks for Instagram. I don't know if you guys know it. It's like a new trend. She's incredibly popular. And she never wore this outfit in real life. Yet more than 700,000 people saw her wearing it digitally. So what is the difference? I'm asking, can we not just, you know, if our digital identity becomes more important, why not make it entirely digital? Influencers get packages sent to them of clothes that they wear once, and then they can send it back, you know, to the companies where they come from, and it's so much waste. So why not wear this? And you can even create crazy materials. So with us, everybody can be front row. You know, the next time, you know, we want everyone to be able to wear our garments from wherever. If there's someone in Ghana, for instance, who wants to wear one of our dresses, that's possible, you know, because it's digital. So, you know, that's what we look for. And we actually put out all of our files out for free. So you can download them on the website. And we call it the FROP, the free file drop. And yeah, every month there's a new collaboration with a designer who also creates these beautiful images for us. And yeah, just a little small bit about our team. So I don't do this alone. This is my amazing team. So I always like to end off with a quote, which is by Isaac Asimov, one of the founding fathers of artificial intelligence. And he said, things don't need to be real when they seem to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Amber. I'd very much, Leah and Cecilia, very much like to invite you on stage and also give the audience a chance to ask maybe some questions. Can I invite you, please? Yeah, sure. Maybe give the audience an opportunity to ask some questions about these projects who are they're all very distinct by themselves, but at the same time there's an interlapping. Anybody got some questions here in the audience? Okay, that can mean two things. Either, yeah, there's a question. Okay, good.
Is the format of your 3D models like made with an open source software standard?
No, because there's still no open source software who can do who has the power to make these kind of things. So right now we're using CLO 3D, Clo 3D. It's like a digital 3D design software. But if there would be an open source tool, we would use that. But right now it's not available yet. So we're waiting for that.
Any more questions? What struck me about your project is that when it's all not real, so you basically you can choose whatever formats, colors, what you want. The models themselves, they look pretty, how do you say, traditional in their figuration and their ways. Have you thought about maybe using more diversity within the model?
Yeah,
Aspect
so that's
of
an
it?
interesting question because the next project is going to be about that.
Okay.
So the next collection will all be about the fluid body and how that moves through digital space. And that's what I'm saying. I want to be more inclusive. So right now we still work with brands who are quite traditional, also in their sizing. And you know, also this garment that the influencer wore on the Instagram. This was actually auctioned off at a blockchain conference in New York. And someone paid $9,500 for it. And we are now fitting the dress to a new person who is much smaller. But I have to adjust to her body size, which is interesting. But I don't have to remake the garment. It's just refitting it and on her picture, and she could wear it.
It's a bit the same as the jewelry we saw earlier today. You know,
Yeah.
The craftsmanship, like you said, is not so much in the garments or the production, but it's in the designing and mastering the software in that part. Leah, could you imagine that this whole theory that Amber sort of sketched here about the future could also apply on the bags?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe the mic? Yeah, share the mic. Yeah.
I think nowadays it's really interesting to use other materials than fabrics, and also like bacterials or other kind of things, but also doing it digital. So maybe thinking about not even using a fabric. That's also what we did, because we used the same program, but then in a lower on a lower scale. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of potential. Yeah, for it. Yeah.
Cecilia, we in the beginning we saw the talk of yours as well. That we saw the whole development of the 3D printing from the early days, working together on a wrap, like building your own 3D printer that can reprint itself, and then ending up with printing molds that were shipped to Africa and made huge clay and chocolate sculptures. Yeah. Is that also the same stage where you were in at the textile lab, that this whole discovering and open source in the community, developing new materials and new production ways?
Yes and no. I think, I mean, it's we have a large network of people that are contributing with all of this research. We all teach each other. In the whole academy, it's about 13 researchers that are based anywhere around the world that are giving the lectures. And then we have all of the local laboratories. I think this year we have 17 labs participating in the academy, and it ranges from Paris to Shanghai, Amsterdam, Barcelona, anywhere in the world, Mexico, Yucatan. So we are fully distributed in that way, and we do collaborate on projects, but also on the academy itself runs the core team. We are based in 3 different locations, so it
So
doesn't matter
collaborate,
when it's physical or it's digital for us, or it's about organizing and coordinating. Whatever we do it in a fully distributed way, and we all contribute in different ways to the research.
So for anybody, which country you're from here in the audience, there's probably a way to connect up. Time for the last question from the audience. That probably means that everything was pretty clear. Though I can imagine that there's still some curiosity about the projects, especially of you three. We can look at the library at the Marineterrein.
Yeah.
We can download the files at your at the website for free.
Also, Marineterrein is
Also at the Marineterrein, but also you can load them for free, download them for free, or you can buy them for $9,500.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
So
Last question for you, Leah. When will the bags? They're already on the market?
Yes, they were. Actually, we sold some of the bags in the station, in the hall where you have all the small shops, and those 2 are the only 2 that we have left. And now we come to the thing we started. We don't want to sell them because they were our favorite ones. But next year, Noella, my business partner, and I will graduate, so we will see how far we can bring it, maybe with other materials or maybe in this kind of direction. So yeah.
So the first collection is already sold out. You're too late. You're too late. Well, this sort of wraps up this morning. It was a full program. We ran a little bit late, but I think we're still within reachable. There are some people who might have to catch a bus. It's up front. To the rest, I'd like to say I hope to see you tomorrow evening here at the Zwijger, when there's another program on distributed design market platform in collaboration with Pakhuis de Zwijger. Today we focused on the Netherlands, and tomorrow evening we will focus internationally, and there will be a big part of the program will be with the nominees of the Index Awards, which is sort of the Nobel Prize or the Pulitzer Prize for the creative industry. It's a Danish prize. So tomorrow is a fully loaded program as well. For the rest, I hope to see you all somewhere today here in the city at the library, or here at the Zwijger, or in the Belmer, or maybe at the Marineterrein, where there's also a lot of stuff going on. Thank you. Do grab a cup of coffee and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And of course, a warm welcome for our guest speakers. I forgot.